Good morning. Today is Monday. It is the 14th day of Kislev. Special day. This is the day of the Rebbe's and the Rebbetzins anniversary, the wedding anniversary. And the Rebbe said that this is the day that connected me and you. All of us Hasidim are connected to the Rebbe, especially because of this day. So it is a very auspicious day. We can start today the sixth chapter, the sixth essay of Kuntres Acharon, the part in the Tanya. It's called Kuntres Acharon, the last part. And we're almost finished with the Tanya this week. And again, I want to remind everyone, we're going to start the Tanya again this coming Shabbos. It's a good opportunity to join the morning Tanya lesson. And also we're including now the links to the Chitas, the Chumash, and the Tehillim, and the Rambam that you can say every single day. You click on the link and the description at the bottom. So today's chapter, the Alter Rebbe, continues in a way with what we explained in last chapter about the special, what the Torah mitzvahs, what it does, when we study the Torah. It brings the elevation, refinement of this world and brings light from above to this world. In this chapter, the Alter Rebbe begins telling us that there is something in addition to, there's something even much deeper to in the Torah and everything in the Torah, there's something much deeper than what we discussed. There's an aspect in the Torah which is much, much greater, much deeper. And to give a little background what the beginning of the Tanya of this chapter. There's the story with King David. King David, he had a lot of challenges in his life. He was a warrior. He had people who were chasing him, all kind of challenges that he had. But he was Hashem's servant, and he was connected to Hashem at all time. And he wrote the Tehillim. And one of the verses in the Tehillim, which is actually in the Rebbe's chapter this year, chapter 119, it says, Zmiros, which means your laws. It was like songs to me, the Beis Megurei, in the house that I lived, or the word Beis Megurei also means, in Megurei means fear, in the house when I was fearful, when I was scared. Then the Zmiros, the laws of the Torah, was like songs to me. Like help me deal with the situations. And the Talmud tells us that because Hashem said to David, "You called my Torah Zmiros," you called them a song, and because of that, he was punished for calling the Torah songs. What was the punishment? So the background is the story with the Holy Ark. The Holy Ark. They took it out as they fought the wars, and at one point it fell into captivity by the Philistines, and it caused a lot of trouble to the Philistines, damage, people died, and so on. So they took it to one place to another place, until finally they decided to give it back to the Jews. So King David ordered to put it on a wagon. And then there was a Jew with the name Uzzah that he saw that the Holy Ark was about to fall, so he put his hand to hold it up, and he died on the spot. Why? Because you're not supposed to touch the Holy Ark. But here, King David really forgot the law that says that you're not supposed to have the Holy Ark on a wagon in the first place. You're not supposed to have it. Because the Torah says that the Holy Ark needs to be carried on the shoulders. There was sticks, special carrying sticks on the Holy Ark, and those were placed on the shoulders. That's how you were supposed to carry it. It's the same thing that when they traveled in the desert. They traveled with wagons. They put everything in the wagons, but the children of Kahas, they didn't have the carrying of the wagons, but they would carry the holy articles on their shoulders. So that's why, the Gemara says that King David was punished. The fact that he called the Torah my songs, they called them songs, because of that, he was punished by that he forgot this law that any child would know, that you're supposed to carry the ark on the shoulder and not on the wagon. So the Alter Rebbe now is going to talk about it. First of all, what's wrong with calling the Torah song? And number two, what's the connection between the offense and the punishment that he called the Torah song? Because of that, he forgot you forgot the law that you're supposed to carry on the shoulder. So let's look inside. Okay, here. David Zmiros Koris Lahu. King David, you called them songs. That's what Hashem says to David. And because of that, he was punished. So it says, the Alter Rebbe, Hine, Bezoyar Shifche Doiraise Verenene. We find the expression, the praise of Torah and its song, that the Torah, the Zoya, in the Zoya, we find that expression. So we do see that it is called song. So what's wrong with calling it song? So in order to understand what was the problem with King David, we first need to understand what exactly does it mean when King David called it song. What does it mean that this is a song? What does it mean that the Torah is the song and praise of Hashem, the way the Zohar says it? It says the Alter Rebbe Ulahavin. We need to understand, let us understand. What exactly is the praise to Hashem when we say that this thing is allowed and this thing is not allowed? Kosher meat is allowed, non-kosher meat is not allowed. That's the praise of Hashem. I mean, I can understand if you tell me the stories in the Torah that talks about the creation of the world, the stories about the Kriyas Yamsuf, going out from Egypt, all of these stories, I can understand that this is the praise of Hashem. But where exactly is the praise of Hashem in the details of the laws, what is allowed and what is not allowed? Hine, so the Alter Rebbe explains, Hu al derech ma godlu ma'asecho Hashem, me'oid omku machshaveisecha. A similar concept is implicit in the verse, how great are your works, O God, your thoughts are very deep. So here, the problem is a question, why does it say first how great your acts, your works, and then your thoughts are very deep? Should say first that your thoughts are deep, and because of that, your acts are great. And Alter Rebbe goes to explain that within the acts of Hashem, within the acts of this world, we see the depth of the thoughts of Hashem. That's what Alter Rebbe explained. It is known shekol ha'olamois elyonim v'sachtoinim tluim bedigduk mitzvah achas. And it is known that all the worlds, the exalted world and the lowly worlds, are dependent on the meticulous performance of a single mitzvah. Every little detail of a mitzvah, you see in the Torah there is so many mitzvahs, and each mitzvah has so many details, how exactly the mitzvah is supposed to be performed. whether it's Shabbos, whether it's offerings, whether it's the putting on the tefillin. There's so many details, and if there's one detail missing, it's wrong, it's not good. And the question is, why is it so important to Hashem, all these details, if I do it this way, if I do it that way? Derech Marshal, to use an example, Ima korban kasher nase yichud elyon ve'olim kol ha'olamas lekabel chayusam v'shifam. If an altar offering is valid, then it becomes a supernal union. There is a union up in the higher worlds, and all of the worlds go up to receive their sustenance and their life, the spiritual sustenance. In other words, when you bring the offering on a daily basis in the Holy Temple, the offering is brought from all four types of creatures. We have the inanimate object, like the salt. We have the something that grows, like the flower is brought. You have from the animal kingdom, which is, you bring animal as an offering. And also the human comes and brings the offering with himself. So each and every, when you bring the offering into the temple, then the entire universe and all of its creatures is becoming elevated and receives their sustenance. Now, what happens if a person changes one detail in the law the way it says in the Torah? The whole thing is not working. Ve'im shina. However, if the person who offers or the person who brings the offering, if he changes, if he alters anything, for example, shekibel adam bismoiloi, one of the procedures in the korban is that you have to receive the blood and then you pour it on the altar. So the blood has to be received with the right hand. What if a person takes, instead of the right hand, he takes the left hand, Marshal? Or for another example, he doesn't use the proper vessel that is a holy vessel, he uses a different vessel. Or for another example, or there was something that was blacking, he was holding it with something, with a handkerchief or something. When the Kohen, when he works in the temple, he has to take off all of his clothing, and he wears special 4 garments, and he's not supposed to wear any shoes or any socks. So if anything is there that is different, then everything is null and void. Everything what this is supposed to accomplish is not there. Then all of the elevations of the worlds are nullified, as is the life force and the sustenance from the source of life of the Ein Sof, blessed be He, because all of this is dependent on the details. You can think about it just like in a computer program. When you program a computer, you got to make sure that every detail is there. If you have one letter missing in the whole, let's say, codes of hundreds of thousands of letters of codes, if one letter is missing, the program is not going to work. Hashem made every detail in this world is going according to the program. You see the wisdom of Hashem. And that is why it's important every detail to have to be appropriate. But tefillin ksheira is the same thing, is also true regarding kosher tefillin. That in order for the tefillin to be kosher, to be valid, mizgalin moichim elyonim dezun. Through the kosher tefillin, there is revealed the supernal intellect of Zun, the masculine and the feminine. There is a union that brings down tremendous light and energy upon the person and into the world. This is the source of life to all of the worlds. And yet, through the omission of one required detail, they are invalidated and the intellect depart. There's many stories the Rebbe told people to make sure to check that tefillin if every detail is perfect. I remember there was once someone that was in Israel, someone was talking not good, but positive things, what the Rebbe was doing. And the Rebbe said that if he was considered a rabbi, whatever, the Rebbe said, if he is capable of saying such things, going against such holy things, there must be that his tefillin that he's wearing is not kosher. So the tefillin has an effect on the health of the person, because this is where it comes Hashem's energy, the nourishment, the light from Hashem. And the same thing it has an effect on the spiritual health and the spiritual standing. And the same thing applies in the all the details, the requirements of the prohibition, the commandments that are negative commandments, things that are prohibited. And therefore, therefore, when you meditate about the greatness of the works of Hashem, in the multiplicity of the worlds and their hosts, and how all of these are literally null relative to any one of the specific of requirements of the Torah. Because this is the depth of the thoughts of Hashem and His divine wisdom. Because through the observance of one minor specification, minor detail in a certain law, all of the worlds ascend and receive their life force and spiritual sustenance. Or the reverse, God forbid. If it's missing something, isn't lacking in the sustenance. And from this, we may understand, we can ponder at the greatness, the depth of the thoughts of Hashem, which is literally boundless and endless. And which is infinitely, it transcends the vitality of all the worlds. Because all the entire vivifying power comes from the minor requirements of Hashem's thoughts, of the mitzvah. And this requirement is drawn from its source. What is the source? Namely, the depth of God's thoughts that specifies the details of the law. And it says, for example, to use an analogy, like a man's hair issues from his brain. Even though the hair, you don't see so much that it's connected to the brain. If you cut it, you don't even feel pain. Yet comes the nourishment from the brain. So the same thing is every detail in this world comes from Hashem's thoughts. It is known from Tikkunei Zohar and the Yid Rabbah. Now this explains and this was the delight of King David, of blessed peace upon him. That he's saying and he's gladdened his heart in Torah study during the time of his anguish. So here in this shir, the Alter Rebbe explains the first part of why. What does it mean that the Torah is the praise of Hashem? Why was it the song of Hashem? Because every part in the world is dependent on any detail of the Torah, and this explains why King David called it when he was in anguish. That what saved him. He said, this is the Torah that made me happy. This is the Torah that kept me going. Tomorrow he's going to explain what was wrong with that statement. So this is the end of today's shir. Please join us, subscribe and share. Let's get more people to join this class.